I don't know all the facts, so I can't say nothing about it. Well, let's see what this is talking about. So our governor, this isn't necessarily Memphis, but it's Memphis adjacent because if something's going on with the governor, it affects our great city here of Memphis, Tennessee. As states across the country adopt harsh new sentencing laws, private prison companies are celebrating, telling investors that they soon expect more people in their prisons and even higher profits. From Mississippi to California, many states have decided tough on crime tech over the past 2 years and a strengthening backlash to criminal justice reform efforts in the wake of George Floyd's murder in 2020. This year, Louisiana passed a package of harsh sentencing laws that will keep some people in prison for years longer. A new parole board in Mississippi is keeping people in prisons for longer terms by denying early release. In March, Washington, D.C. enacted a sweeping anti-crime package. These laws, advocates warn, threaten to reverse years of progress in the fight against mass incarceration. Instead, they would again trap people in prison for lengthy terms, ripping apart communities and exacerbating racial and socioeconomic inequality. Oh, Lord. While enriching the private firms that manage prisons and their shareholders. Perhaps no state is more emblematic of the recent sentencing crackdown and the private interests that stand to benefit than Tennessee, where one of the world's largest prison companies is headquartered. Since 2022, lawmakers in Tennessee have found to enact a slate of harsh sentencing laws that are expected to increase the state's spending on incarceration by tens of millions of dollars annually. The key power brokers behind the legislation are also some of the top recipients of private prison company cash. It's called the lever found. The lever found. Let's find out about them in a second. The key power brokers behind the legislation are also are also some of the top recipients of private prison company cash, lever found. On May 28th, Governor Bill Lee signed the latest of these proposals into law, a bill that would end the use of so-called sentence reduction credits, which allow people incarcerated in Tennessee to serve shorter sentences as a reward for a clean record in prison. Pure craziness. If you're being rehabilitated, you've gone to prison for whatever crime that you committed, and you're being a model citizen in prison because you're learning your lesson from the thing that like I said, everything happens everybody does whatever they do for a reason. So you have an epiphany, you know what I'm saying? You've cleaned your act up. You think differently. Whatever they want to call it, rehabilitated. You're doing right in prison. You're trying to be a model citizen. So the governor, Bill Lee, signed the latest proposal into law, a bill that will end the use of so-called sentence reduction credits, which allow people incarcerated in Tennessee to serve shorter sentences as reward for a clean record in prison. The law, which will only apply to future offenses, is projected by the state to result in a significant increase in spending on incarceration. Golly. They sure know how to drive the numbers up. Get that money. So this is something that we have to put on the board. We have to take a look at because they're doing shit right under our nose. This applies directly to Memphis. Our community. Hey, look, I know I said what I said about the bond. None of my business. You understand? I'm just saying, if somebody's dangerous, they're not in the right state of mind, they do some dumb shit, they go to court or they're in jail, they're at the initial court hearing, they get thrown a $250 bond, they don't give a damn, they just got out, they just went in there. Then they get back out and do some more dumb shit. That's when the community starts getting mad. But if you're in prison and you're trying to turn your life around and something that was put in place to be a benefit, it also would be something to make you want to walk a better, line or whatnot, that's being taken away because you're trying to make $1. That's crazy. For the people locked up in Tennessee prison system who are disproportionately poor and black, this will mean in some cases they will spend years longer in a prison cell. There's little evidence that longer sentences deter crime. I believe that. But the law does have at least one key beneficiary. Tennessee's private prison contractor, Core Civic, formerly the Corrections Corporation of America, one of the world's largest prison companies. Let's look that up. Let's find out who Core Civic is. Yeah. Formerly the Corrections Corporations of America is a company that owns and manages private prisons and detention centers and operates others on a concession basis, co-founded in 1983. How about that in Nashville? Our very own. My bad. Tennessee's very own. They manage private prisons and detention centers and operates others on a concession basis, co-founded in Nashville by these people. So let's see what they're talking about. There's pure effery. I'm gonna tell you that right now. You hear me? Pure effery. A helpful guide to reentry. Core Civic partners our journey to what? See how they try to spin this shit. Better the public good. Oh, Lord Jesus. This is crazy. Walking through a season of incarceration is challenging, but what can be more challenging for a justice-involved individual is navigating a new life at release. For a justice-involved individual, you mean somebody that went through the system and is being what? A justice-involved individual, a newly released prisoner. You know what I'm saying? What is this? Oh, Lord Jesus. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to recognize it's a business and they're trying to pull in money, so they're going to use words that are going to be lighter. It's not going to seem as harsh. But I'm a person that went to prison, you know what I'm saying? And you've altered my life. I get it. We'll talk about the criminal justice system at some other point, but I just feel like this is The prison shouldn't be public. Oh yeah, it shouldn't. It shouldn't be a private uh, opportunity. It shouldn't be. There should not be an opportunity for individuals to make money off of incarcerated people. But what can be more challenging for a justice involved individual is navigating a new life at release, especially if one has served a lengthy sentence and must face the world as it is today, which will likely be different than the world he or she knew upon entering a facility. This is what we do, by the way. This is well, hold on. Core Civic partners with our Journey to Supply Reentry Resource Guidebooks. Okay. Unless a returning citizen has a family or friends waiting to pick them up when they're released. Being free can mean being incredibly vulnerable, incredibly fast. For many, getting released from incarceration can present a mountain of obstacles, from accessing food and clothing to securing employment, finding a place to live, and obtaining adequate. This is all for the shareholders. For investors. You know what I'm saying? That's why they put this shit out here on this website. It could be daunting and to navigate all at once. And Brian Scott is no stranger to the process. Scott, the executive director of a North Carolina-based nonprofit called Our Journey, completed a 20-year prison sentence in 2021 and launched the organization with other formerly incarcerated individuals a year later. Its mission is so hold on. Core Civic owns a private prison, privatizes prisons, but they're trying to make it seem like they're interested in prisoner releases and wow, they care about the well-being of that person getting out of prison. When privatizing by nature is incentive to keep them in as long as possible, who knows, they might have gotten a sentence that what I'm saying, they otherwise wouldn't have gotten if there wasn't a privatized option for incarceration. All right, I'm going off in the deep end. Craziness. So, anyways, obviously, Core Civic is a privatized prison contractor, one of the world's largest prison companies, who, by the way, will almost certainly see new profits as a direct result of the legislation that Governor Bill Lee has signed into law. Yeah. I don't know what. Do I not want them to have bond? Do I want them to have bond? You know what I'm saying? Like, shit, man. We got to catch them while they're young. That's all it boils down to. We got to catch them while they're young. The company, which spends millions of dollars a year lobbying both in state and on a federal level, has begun telling its investors that harsh sentencing laws across the country will soon translate to bigger profits from the 70-plus prisons it runs nationwide. 70 prisons. There's been a fair amount of activity both this year, really in the last 2 years, within the state legislatures on adjustments on sentencing reform. Core Civic CEO said he expected this development to lead to pretty significant increases in prison populations. Good news for the prison company, which is often paid by how many inmates are housed in prison at a given time. Already, he said, higher occupancy rates in core civic managed prisons has led to, in turn, strong financial results for investors. Bianca Tylek, the executive director of Worth Rises, an advocacy organization that focuses on the harms of prison industries, called the CEO comments brazen and proof that the companies don't think people are listening. It's a travesty. It says it right there. It's a travesty. Huge effect. It's a huge effect. Huge effect on Memphis. Huge effect on our community, because that gives incentive for longer jail terms. Obviously, if you do good in prison, it's not gonna help you get out earlier. We got to come up with something. That's all I know.